Good evening.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day.
At Christmas time, we delight again to hear the story of the journey to Bethlehem. The song of the angels and the surprise of the shepherds in their joy as they found Jesus in a manger. But lest we forget that he was born to poverty, let's remember for a moment in this season all who are hungry or cold. Unless we forget that he became a refugee, we remember the stranger and the lonely among us. Unless we forget he felt the pain of life and death, we remember now those who are ill or bereaved or anxious. And because we know he came for our salvation, let us in heart and mind go once again to Bethlehem to hear the message of the angels and to worship afresh the Son of God.
People who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine. You will enlarge the nation of Israel, and its people will rejoice. They will rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, and like warriors dividing the plunder. For you will break the yoke of their slavery and lift the heavy burden from their shoulders. You will break the oppressor's rod, just as you did when you destroyed the army of Midian. The boots of the warrior and the uniforms blood-stained by war will all be burned. They will be fuel for the fire. For a child is born to us, a son to us is given. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His government and its peace will never end. He will rule with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David for all eternity. The passionate commitment of the Lord of Heaven's armies will make this happen.
The third reading is taken from Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 to 25. This is how Jesus the Messiah was born. His mother Mary was engaged to be married to Joseph. But before the marriage took place, while she was still a virgin, she became pregnant through the power of the Holy Spirit. Joseph, to whom she was engaged, was a righteous man and did not want to disgrace her publicly, so he decided to break the engagement quietly. As he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. "Joseph, son of David," the angel said, "do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child within her was conceived by the Holy Spirit, and she will have a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." All this occurred to fulfill the Lord's message through his prophet. "Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us." When Joseph woke up, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded and took Mary as his wife. But he did not have relations with her until her son was born, and Joseph named him Jesus.
time, the Roman Emperor Augustus decreed that the census should be taken throughout the Roman Empire. This was the first census taken when Quirinius was governor of Syria. All returned to their own ancestral towns to register for this census. And because Joseph was a descendant of King David, he had to go to Bethlehem in Judea, David's ancient home. He traveled there from the village of Nazareth in Galilee. He took with him Mary, to whom he was engaged, who was now expecting a child. And while they were there, the time came for her baby to be born. She gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him snugly in strips of cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no lodging available for them.
See amid the winter snow, born for us on every low. See the tender Lamb appears, promised from eternal years. Hail the ever blessed morn, redemption's happy dawn. Sing through all Jerusalem, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Lo, within a manger lies He who built the starry skies, He who throned in heights sublime, sits amid the cherubim. Hail, ever blessed morn, hail redemption's happy dawn. Sing through all Jerusalem, Christ is born in Bethlehem.
Sacred infant, all divine, what a tender love was thine, thus to come from highest bliss down to such a world as this.
Hail the blessed morn, hail redemption's happy dawn. Sing through all Jerusalem, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Teach us, Holy Child, by thy face so meek and mild. Teach us to resemble thee in thy sweet humility.
Hail, O
Blessed morn, hail redemption's happy dawn. Sing through all Jerusalem, Christ is born in Bethlehem.
The fifth reading is taken from Luke chapter 2, verses 8 to 20. That night there were shepherds staying in the fields nearby, guarding their flocks of sheep. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared among them, and the radiance of the Lord's glory surrounded them. They were terrified, but the angel reassured them. Don't be afraid, he said. I bring you good news that will bring great joy to all people. The Saviour, yes, the Messiah, the Lord, has been born today in Bethlehem, the city of David. And you will recognize him by this sign. You will find a baby wrapped snugly in strips of cloth, lying in a manger. Suddenly, the angels were joined by a vast host of others, the armies of heaven, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in highest heaven, and peace on earth to those with whom God is pleased." When the angels had returned to heaven, the shepherds said to each other, "Let's go to Bethlehem. Let's see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." They hurried to the village and found Mary and Joseph, and there was the baby lying in a manger. After seeing him, the shepherds told everyone what had happened and what the angels had said to them about this child. All who heard the shepherd's story were astonished, but Mary kept all these things in her heart and thought about them often. The shepherd went back to their flocks, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen. It was just as the angels had told them.
Shepherds watch the flocks by night, all seated on the ground. The angel of the Lord came down, and glory shone around. Fear not, said he, for mighty dread hath seized their troubled mind. Glad tidings of great joy I bring to you and all mankind. To you in David's town this day is born of David's line a Saviour who is Christ the Lord, and this shall be the sign.
The heavenly babe you there shall find, to human view displayed, all meanly wrapped in swathing bands, and in a manger laid.
The spake the seraph, and forthwith appeared a shining form of angels praising God, who thus addressed their joyful song.
All glory
Glory be to God on high, and to the earth peace.
goodwill.
Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. He called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law and asked, "Where is the Messiah supposed to be born?" "In Bethlehem in Judea," they said, "for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah, for a ruler will come from you, who will be the shepherd for my people, Israel." Then Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men, and he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. Then he told them, "Go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, come back and tell me, so that I can go and worship him too." After this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasure chests, and they gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod.
Ding dong, merrily on high, in heaven the bells are ringing. Ding dong, merrily the sky is ringed with angels singing. Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis. Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis. It's so hidden up below. Let steeple bells be swung, and the-o-e-o-e-o by priest and people sung. Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis. Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis. Pray you dutifully prime your mountain chiming ringers. May you beautifully rhyme your E-time song, ye singers. Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis. Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis.
In the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God, and God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. God sent a man, John the Baptist, to tell about the light, so that everyone might believe because of his testimony. John himself was not the light. He was simply a witness to tell about the light. The one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He came into the very world he created, but the world didn't recognize him. He came to his own people, and even they rejected him. But to all who believed him and accepted him. He gave the right to become children of God. They are reborn, not with a physical birth resulting from human passion or plan, but a birth that comes from God. So the Word became human and made his home among us. He was full of unfailing love and faithfulness, and we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, God and cannot hold him, nor else sustain. Heaven and earth shall flee away when he comes to reign. In the bleak midwinter, a stable place apart, the Lord God Almighty, Jesus Christ.
Enough for him whom cherubim worship night and day. A breast full of milk and a manger full of hay. Enough for him whom angels fall down before. The ox and ass and camel which adore.
What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what I can, I give thee. Give my heart, give my heart.
Then Jesus returned to Galilee, filled with the Holy Spirit's power. Reports about him spread quickly through the whole region. He taught regularly in their synagogues and was praised by everyone. When he came to the village of Nazareth, his boyhood home, he went as usual to the synagogue on the Sabbath and stood up to read the scriptures. The scroll of Isaiah the prophet was handed to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where this was written. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the time of the Lord's favor has come. He rolled up the scroll, handed it back to the attendants, and sat down. All eyes in the synagogue looked at him intently. Then he began to speak to them. The scripture you've just heard has been fulfilled this very day.
O come, all ye faithful,
Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, "I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness, because you will have the light that leads to life." The Pharisees replied, "You are making those claims about yourself. Such testimony is not valid." Jesus told them, "These claims are valid, even though I make them about myself. For I know where I came from and where I am going, but you don't know this about me. You judge me by human standards, but I do not judge anyone."
Well, just for a moment then, I was facing the choir. I thought, I wonder if I did that, what they might do. But I thought I should definitely leave that to John, otherwise that might go wrong. But thank you everyone so much. Thank you musicians, choir, Joe on the organ, John. There really is something so special about this evening. Every year I look forward to it more. I know that sometimes in life things can get a little bit old hat. We've done Christmas however many times, and we're the ones wrapping the presents and making things happen. But there's something about these evenings that remind us of the special and unique thing that we celebrate at Christmas. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for coming, and it's really lovely to welcome you. And if you don't know who I am, my name's Chris. I'm one of the team here, and it's a real pleasure to speak just for a few moments this evening and hopefully just remind us again of the wonder and the glory and the goodness of Christmas. I wonder how easy you do find it, or have found it this year, to get into the mood for Christmas. You know, that feeling Christmassy thing that we long for, we talk about, but sometimes it's hard to come around. Some of the things I might mention now might help you, and some of them might be things that put you out of the mood. I hope not. Christmas services and singing carols, I think maybe we can all agree that something like tonight definitely makes you feel Christmassy. Mulled wine and mince pies, we're going to enjoy some mulled wine afterwards. That hopefully will add to the Christmassy feeling. What about decorating the house and the tree? Anyone here begin in November this year? It's not a thing of shame. It's okay to confess. Yes, John did start in November. Lots of my friends did. I think my family would just leave it up all year if we could. But I'm very strict around that sort of thing. It's getting earlier and earlier anyway, decorations. What about the incredible light displays? Maybe you have a house that you visit. Maybe it's not quite as good as that. I imagine that electric bill on January the 1st. I don't know. Maybe it's the school nativity plays, or it's the snow that really never happens, but we do hope, don't we, that it might appear. We might have a white Christmas. The Christmas music, if anyone's taken part in Whamageddon again this year, I was out by about the 6th of December, and it was entirely my daughter's birthday's fault. What about Christmas shopping? This is guaranteed to get me out of the mood for Christmas. I just want to remind everyone there are 5 shopping days left for Christmas. And also to say to you all, it is utterly unacceptable to buy Christmas presents from a petrol station, especially after the shops are shut. It's a little reminder to myself as well. I wonder if you've noticed, though, the first thing, I think, to appear in the shops after Halloween, especially the supermarkets, are the tubs of Christmas chocolates. Does anyone else walk in and think, they're only £5? I know it's October, but we can begin celebrating. I wonder what your favourite Christmas chocolate might be. When I was little, we were always given these homemade truffles from my grandmother. They were amazing, but there were never enough of them. And some of my friends who came from a nicer part of the village, they always had Ferrero Rocher. That was the kind of, you know you'd made it if you had a Ferrero Rocher. But I want to show you a little video about a chocolate that I don't think anyone really likes. So let's just watch this video for a minute and a half.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. The snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow in the bleak midwinter long ago. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. So what can I give him? Give my heart.
There you go. I have to say, the thought of a bounty and a sprout seems like the worst Christmas combination of all time. And just to say, other chocolates and modern celebrations are available this Christmas time. We won't want to appear biased. Isn't it true that we all have hopes for Christmas? Hopes that, and it feels as though again this year those hopes are uncertain. We're really hoping that we might see loved ones and that we're not prevented from doing so in any way. Perhaps it's just simply we are looking forward to that Christmas meal, enjoying it with others, pulling crackers together, celebrating in some way together, hopefully getting some rest and relaxation. Maybe it's that particular gift that you have put a number of times on your family WhatsApp, and hoping sometime, this year might be the year that someone finally takes the hint. But hope is at the heart of Christmas. In fact, it is something that what we've heard in the readings we've heard this evening, many of those involved in the Christmas story discovered. In the reading we've just had, that Jono just brought to us, we've heard these words from Jesus. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Every one of us at different times in life either has or will experience those darker moments for all sorts of reasons. So perhaps the pandemic has kind of amplified those feelings. We feel disconnected relationally because we've had to spend so much time online rather than in person. We've suffered with illness, maybe COVID, alone in our homes, physically unwell, but unable to be with those we love. Perhaps our mental or emotional health has taken a bit of a battering, with rises in anxiety and depression or panic. But maybe we've experienced loss and grief in these times. Maybe failure in a relationship or a friendship from even further back still darkens our days. And perhaps even it's just simply the uncertainty of what will 2022 bring. See, in life, darkness can be a reality. But here's the truth. The light really is brighter. Over the past while, my wife, Nell, has been going through treatment for cancer, and we've certainly had those dark moments and dark days. But do you know this is true for us? Whenever the darkness falls, we are so aware of the light that overcomes it. And for us, Jesus is that light that shines and brings life each day, that he is faithful and trustworthy. And here is the great news. The light comes to us. We don't need to go looking for the light. The light finds us where we are. The light has come down, John says, into the world, into the darkness, and the darkness can't extinguish it. In fact, it's the opposite. The light extinguishes the darkness. And that message is at the heart of the Christmas story, that the light came down in darkness to us. Jesus, born in the manger, God with us, Emmanuel. Jesus came to give us the light of life. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's think about a couple of the readings that we've heard this evening. So we've heard from Isaiah that the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. The light of life brings hope. People here that Isaiah is talking to are fearful of what's happening at that moment. They're fearful of the future, caught in a difficult circumstance. And they get hope for the here and now. Right in this life, there is hope. There's always hope. But also they're given hope for the future. The hope was a promised child that we born, for unto us a son is given. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, the vision of Jesus coming to us. The shepherds we meet, I love the shepherds. I think my favourite characters in the Christmas story. And when they encounter the light of life, it brings joy. They're on the hillside, left in the dark. I imagine there was no light pollution in those days. And on the hills outside of Bethlehem, they're sat in the pitch black, maybe with a fire. But suddenly the lights are switched on in a way they'd never experienced. Their darkness is eclipsed by the light of heaven. The angels come, light up the hillside, both with brightness and with their songs. They're singing joyful songs, and they extend this incredible invitation to those left on the hillside. Come and see the one born in the manger. The light of the world, Jesus born in Bethlehem. And when these shepherds meet with Jesus, their lives were filled with joy. You see, the light of life brings joy. We come across the Magi, the wise men, the outsiders, the foreigners. They follow the brightest star in the darkest sky, and it leads them to the light of the world. They come hopeful and ready with gifts to meet the Savior of the world, the one who would bring light and life to every tribe and tongue and nation. And Jesus will lead us to himself if we are looking to find him this Christmas. And as we heard from the reading a little while ago in John's Gospel, the light has come into the world and the darkness cannot overcome it. Jesus came into the world to bring good news of great joy for every person, young and old. He went to those who most needed to know that they were loved by God. He demonstrated that by bringing those who were on the outside into his home for dinner. He welcomed and loved them. He set those who were bound up and in captivity free. He healed those who were ill in body, mind, or soul. Anyone who asked him for help received it, and he never turned anyone away. And even in his darkest moments, on the cross, his light still shone brightly. On the cross, he demonstrated this is what love is. How much God loved the world so much that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him will find life. He was willing to lay down his life for everyone. It's that kind of love that can overpower even death itself. His light brought life to all. We're going to sing our final carol in a moment. Hark the herald angels sing. There's a line in that carol. Light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. See, the light of the world isn't somewhere out there. He's right here, right now. And that's who we're celebrating this Christmas. That's what brings wonder and joy and a fresh excitement about Christmas, not the same old cynicism about the money we spend or the things we eat or the people we don't really want to see. It's him at the center of our Christmas. I know we probably shouldn't talk about Christmas parties, but in normal times we do love an invitation to a party, don't we? An invitation to a celebration. And this one is one that that can never be eclipsed. That invitation that we have to a Christmas party, to a celebration at Christmas, has yours and my name on it. An invitation to the greatest celebration there has ever been. It's already begun. It'll keep on going for all of eternity. And as with any invitation, I don't know, like you, we have a choice to make. We can turn it down. We might miss out. We can say yes, and we can join this party straight away. Or we can make some further inquiries about the party. You know, that status on Facebook that says that Chris is interested in your party. I always say that as a bit of an insult. See, I became a Christian just before going off to university. I'd thought about it a lot as a teenager. But for me, the thing that made such a difference was I did something called Alpha. Alpha was a place where I had a great meal with people I got to know and became friends, lifelong friends. And in the autumn of 1997, I did this Alpha course and heard a presentation about something to do with faith. But the most important bit was the time with others, in a group, discussing and asking questions and thinking and reflecting on faith. And really quickly, I discovered that Jesus really was who he says he was. And I began that journey of faith and trust that has changed my life. Not made life easy, but I know that God, the light of the world, isn't out there. He's in here. He's in here with me. Walking with me, beside us. And there's a chance to take part in Alpha in January. And if you want to do that, do find out more. You can look online on our website, or you can talk to Tim, who's here. He'd love to chat to you. Or come and find me. I'd love to speak to you about faith. You see, those who did Alpha were in different camps. There was me who hadn't yet become a Christian and wanted to find faith for myself. There were those who went because they'd lost their faith or life had been particularly challenging. They wanted to find out more again. And others wanted just to reaffirm what they already believed. And the wonderful thing is that everyone was welcome. And you know, this Christmas, I pray not that we'd go on a course or not that we'd just enjoy the food and everything else. Those things are wonderful and we want to celebrate them. But at the heart of Christmas, we'd know the light that brings life. Life to each one. Life to every person. Life to you and me. And I pray that we would discover the light of the world, even in the darkest moments, that we would know hope, joy, and love, the love of God in our hearts this year. I'm going to pray. Father, thank you so much that you have given us your Son because you love us so much. And I pray for each one of us here in the room and all those watching online that, Lord, right now we would know the light that brings life. Let your presence bring absolute beauty and wonder to our Christmas celebrations, whatever they may be this year. And that we may know the peace that passes understanding that comes from you. Amen. Amen. Well, I'd love to invite us to stand. We're now going to sing our final carol, Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
Thank you for being with us this evening. If you've been here before, you'll know that over Christmas, we as a church give all our collections away. And There are four ways in which you can give today. There's two contactless giving stations at the back. You can give via cash in the order of service, so you can do bank transfers. And there's another pay-as station that will be at the back. All the money given, including any gift aid that we can get back on that money, will release people from trafficked slavery in Burundi. £250 pays for one person to be released and given new life again. That is, given a new start in life, given counselling, given all that they need, including housing, and launched into a new little business so that they can make a living a different way. Most of these people who are trafficked are caught up with it when they are children. And we're giving to that, and as part of that also 50% of what we give will go towards a vehicle which is used for exactly that purpose, to go and rescue people as well. So if I can ask you to give generously to that on the assurance that nothing is coming to us as a church, it's all going to those in desperate need around the world. I'd love you to give generously at the end. And we are doing, for COVID safety today, we are encouraging you to get into the Christmas spirit. Although I love Bounties and Sprouts, so I'm going to have a word with him afterwards. I'm going to encourage you to get into the Christmas spirit. We're going to do take out, but don't take our cups away. Mulled wine outside. So mulled wine and soft drinks are outside. As we go, so you can go out through the entrance at the back there and stand around outside and drink and feel the chill of Christmas as it comes upon you. But let's ask God's blessing upon us. We pray for you this year that in your home you would know the surprise of the shepherds, the joy of the angels, and the peace of the Christ child. And may God's blessing rest upon you, your families, your friends, and your loved ones, wherever they may be this day and for always. Amen. Thank you, friends, for joining us today.